What's going on, guys? Good morning. It's Tailors and Chasers here again with another episode of Steelhead Meet Carp, Part 3. That's right, 3. This is probably one of the most popular flies to be tied for any species, for that matter, let alone Steelhead and Carp. Thanks for everybody out there so far for watching. I appreciate all the comments. Alright, so first up today, we're going to tie this two-fly sculpin. The advantage of two flies is if your hook gets wrecked, your fly's not garbage. You just cut off the hook, put a new hook on, you're good to go. I try to use a heavier wire hook, which also adds weight to get the fly down there, and I try and ride it most times hook point up, unless I know there's nothing in the water to get snagged. But fishing in an urban environment, they're snagged everywhere, so it's 99.9% of the time I ride hook point up with a heavy wire hook. So for material, we're going to use black Pro Tube. It's fat on one and skinny other, so if you want to add the weight, you can add the weight. Add a cone. If I want to add a cone, that's an option as well. If you want to add a cone, that's not that hard to do. Make a couple presets of the liner tubing with cone on front, and you can slide it right in the front of the bead. That works pretty well as well, which is why I like the Pro Tube system. They work good. And then for the head, we're going to go Sydney Laser Dub. Like I said before, this is my favorite material, and we're going with Sculpin Olive. This is one of my favorite ones to use. It makes a really good head. You can layer it. You can make it as bulky or unbulky as you want, but the whole point of this, the Sculpin, is to make it fat in the head. And then we're going to use some UV polar chenille. I use a little bit. I've used this in the past before for some other patterns, and this is this UV stuff. I don't know if it's the UV or it's color, but either way, it works, and the confidence is 99% of the game. So we're going with this. I've never used this color before. I usually use the UV copper, so we're going to try this on this pattern and see how this goes. But I've definitely used this material before, but just not this color. But this matches the Sculpin the best to give that kind of molted kind of look, which is what you want for a Sculpin, right? And then we're going to use Sculpin Olive Marabou for the back and the tail. Kind of layer this up. There's like 1,000 different ways to tie a Sculpin on a two fly. There's an intruder way. There's like a couple different ways to use the west and stuff. This is a simple fly that just catches fish. It's one of my go-to flies for swinging. Nothing else is working. This is like this. You can tie the same thing in tan. Is another awesome color. The Sculpin Olive and brown and tan are probably my top 3. But if I had to pick one every day, it would be the Sculpin Olive. It's not brown, but it's not olive, but it's kind of in between. And then we're going to use a little bit of fox fur for the tail and make the bulk up so the fly stands out so it doesn't collapse when you strip it in, which is why, but also to help that or counter that, we're using a bigger side of the tube, which helps it not collapse and make it fatter profile before we can start. Where it's not using a hook, where it's really skinny, we don't have to add the bulk of the material, we just add some of this and that'll help. And then also to add bulk to the fly, not too much, just a little bit of this chenille, woolly bugger chenille and olive. Brings me to my next point. I don't put any flash in this fly. I used to run it with tinsel in the back or a flashaboo or crystal flash in the back, but I find that after a while and the fish get pressured, the chenille or the crystal flash and the flashaboo scare fish away sometimes. There's a time and place for it, but out in the tributaries out here where we fish, it's so busy and there's so many people out there. The subtle, more natural colors patterns I seem to work the best. So this is my two fly. Good. So let's get started with this Steelhead Sculpin style. Anyways, you're done. This just works easier. And I leave a little bit of tube exposed at the end because you're going to have to put a silicone sleeve on there to hold your hook in. So, I don't know, 1/4 inch, no, more like 1/8 inch at the back. And then just write a little layer of thread on here. I wouldn't go too far forward because we're not making this pattern super huge. We're going to let the fly do the work for us. And then a little bit of chenille at the back to kind of anchor our pattern or make it splay out so it stays fat. I don't know why this vice squeaks. It squeaks. I don't know why. It's weird. Or the bobbin squeaks. And then we're going to put that there and we're going to make not a ton of wraps, but I don't know. Like this. Just like that. Just small body. We don't need huge. It's going to make the material, we're going to make the material do it, make it like huge for us. We just basically want something on there so the material doesn't collapse when you strip it in. So, pry that off there, cut that off. Like I said before, there's 1,000 ways to tie these Sculpins on the two flies. You can do whatever way works for you. Now fox fur. Fox fur, probably about that much. You can do it in a dubbing loop and spin it on there and tie it on there if you want. That works really well. Maybe we'll do that today. We'll do that. Make it that and do it in dubbing loop. So it stays a bit secure. Some steelhead teeth won't bang it. They're going to be probably pretty aggressive, so I'm hoping to... We're going to put it in there like so. And then that dubbing loop tool, put it in there like so. And then we're going to spin it. It's not the easiest pattern to tie, but you can tie it the exact same way as I'm going to do this carp one on a 2-fly and get the same result. But I find this flows better in the current. You don't want too much material in there. Rabbit and marabou together kind of it's too buoyant in the tube, then you have to add weight stuff to it. So I like adding them weightless, so it's kind of you can do more. It gives you more options to do stuff if you want to do stuff later. Then spin it around, and we're going to wrap it on here. When we wrap it on here, we want it to pull the fur back, right? Basically making some bulk. And it's going to hang out past the tail, so the hook's going to be hidden inside there. Comb that back, and then back again. Right? And then we're going to cut this off here. There. Like that. And then you can comb it if you want. I'm just going to pull out all the loose fibers out of there. And there's the fox fur body, or tail. And then we're going to wrap it in here again. Right, and then we're going to take a piece of marabou. And then we're going to take about, I don't know, 1 stem of marabou, pretty good size. And we're going to comb it backwards. And we're going to tie it in with the tips and basically do the same thing as we just did with the fox fur. We're going to palmer it in there by the tip. Right. That. And then same thing. Oh, broke it. I hate it when that happens. Right. Same thing. When you palmer it on there, you want to comb your feathers out. Oh, sorry. I like to have the concave feathers basically pointing back. There's the underside of the feather facing the back of the fly. Texture, wrap it around here, combing the feathers back, palmering it over to build the body of this sculpin. Just head forward a bit. Do that. You don't need much. Probably think 3 or 4 wraps on there. You want to be as natural looking as possible and flowy. Combination of the fox fur and the marabou. It's going to drive these fish crazy. Cut that stem off, like so, and then we're just going to clean up these butts here, like so. So there's whatever forming sculpin now. All right. Then we're going to go a bit forward more a bit, and we're going to take some of our polar chenille and UV olive brown, probably like the length of the needle. Probably I usually just kind of start there. We're not going to use all of that probably, but I kind of keep them all the same. And then we're going to separate the fibers. This basically adds shine and it basically emulates fins on a fish. You can add feathers in, like I will show you how to do that on the other carp fly if you want, to make them basically identical but different because one's on a tube. And then you can do that too if you want. But I find this kind of just does the best. It adds flash, which I need a little bit of. The color and the UV is a key, and then also it makes it look like fins. Basically right behind the head. Wrap this on here. Wrong way. And same thing. Put the fibers to the back. Right? I don't know, 5 or 6 wraps. And around there. Make this fly. Build a bit of a taper, build a bit of a head on it. Right up against each other, all the way up. And then capture that right there. So I'm going to take a chunk of sinuous laser dub, and I'm going to separate the fibers until I get them all the same length. You want them the same, so you can fold it over and make the head. Just keep pulling them apart, and at the end, So the fibers that are at the end are now in the middle, and keep stacking it, and stacking it, and stacking it until they don't pull anymore. And that's probably the last one. These are red fur. I don't know where the red stuff came from. So then now they're all the same. They're all stacked up. They're all ready to go, like that. So then we're going to take our fly and we're going to turn it on its side. Take the thread and then wrap the material around it like so. Right, and there it is there. So just you put that right on the side and pull it tight, and then wrap it down. And by doing it like that, you can pretty much get the material to do whatever you want and put it wherever you like. So then we're going to do the same thing with this other one. Same thing, sort it out, pull it, part it, right? Wrap it around the thread, like so, put it right there. It's going to pop right on top. And then wrap it. Right, and then maybe one more chunk probably. Needle again. Taking a beating, that needle. But steel, so it's pretty durable. Careful on that. I'll cut my hand a few times, which is another reason why I leave the tube long, so I don't have to worry about cutting my hand. Alright, that's that. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take the thread, we're going to wrap it around like so, and pull it down to where I want it to go, which I want it to go right there on the side. And now we're going to make a little thread bump, and then that's our sculpin, right? That's it. You can make the tail longer, you can put a rabbit on top if you want, but that is the simplest two fly pattern that just catches fish, hands down. Like so. Slide it off. Okay, now we gotta do this tube. Two ways to do it. Razor blade, cut the razor blade. If you want to do that, you can cut that. Or what I do is I usually cut it a little bigger than I need with some scissors, like so. Sharp ones. Take a barbecue lighter. That. And stick it in there till it sets. There it is. Sculpin, two fly, steelhead. Here we come. Same as any time of year I would use crayfish, I would use a sculpin. Two patterns for like Ontario, sculpin, crayfish, kind of my bang on go to for fishing the Great Lakes. They're big fish, 20 pounds plus, caught them over 30. They want a big meal, and the sculpin pattern is the ticket. So first we're going to use our number 4 Mustad 3X hooks. I've used a lot of different hooks in the past. This is one of my favorite ones. I also use saltwater hooks, but I find that the extra upturn bent in the hook, as we're going to ride this hook point up, it kicks the tail up in the air, and if you're in some silt, it'll help the fish see the fly coming down. And then we're going to run some eyes. We're going to run small 5/32 eyes in the silver and yellow. I use lead eyes before, most of the times. I'm just doing this now basically so you can see it, because the light is not really, like, you can't see it. I probably caught more fish. It's a 50-50 mix. Sometimes the eyes, they key in on the eyes, and other times they don't care. It depends on the fish. So I have a mixture of ones with eyes and ones without. I've used the ones that are painted with eyes, which I like, but after like 5 minutes of casting them and hitting the rocks and stuff, the paint all comes off. So I found these metal ones a little better. They are coated. I never had one come off yet. I'm sure they probably will eventually, but they also add a little bit of noise. If you're hitting the rocks and you're tinking the rocks and stuff, they also add a little bit of noise, which also helps bring the carp over. So it gives like a little sculpin scurrying on the rocks, trying to get away from the carp. So that's going to be that for the eyes. For the head, sculpin wool and sculpin olive. And I like this material. It's makes the fly fall really soft. You can trim it really close. It's not as hard to work with the deer tail, so if you're just starting tying, this is an easier material to work with than deer hair, but it also holds moisture, stays down there. And then I add these. I don't know if you need to add them or not. I just grizzly marabou in Sculpin olive for fins. Sometimes the fins matter, sometimes the fins don't. So I put these in just because I like to put fins in, just to make it look more realistic. Major part of the fly reason, rabbit strips, olive variant black barred. This is probably my best color for Sculpin. This is olive variant black barred. I also use the tan variant and brown barred, so this is the go-to one. And then I also carry a tan one, which is also good. And these are the brown one for the most of the rivers I found, or different lakes and streams have different color of Sculpins, so they kind of match. And then the body on the hook is going to be this UV polar chenille again, same as with the last fly. Just add a little bit more, a little bit of shine to it, not a whole lot. We're going to put this right behind the fins and fill the body up basically with this. And we're going to use the chenille from last time on the fly. You can run the fly without chenille, or you can run it with chenille. It's totally up to you. So that's it for the Carp Sculpin. Let's get to it. Alright, so this is the Carp version of the Sculpin pattern. Some black thread again on there, only because we're using the olive variant black barred anyway, so it helps to match the color. The thread base there. A dumbbell weight in the 5/32 size with the yellow eyes. I usually put it a little farther back because you want to make room for the you have to make room for the sheep wool in the front, and then if you put too much on, this will leave room for error. So figure eights, wrap it underneath, give it a check, and pull it as much as you can, and then I'll tighten it up and it won't wiggle. And then we go back to the fly, right to the back of the hook. And today we're going to put a little bit of this marabou on for our tail, kind of underneath everything, and we're going to build bulk at the same time. So about that much marabou, about the length of the hook shank, about that much, and we're going to tie it in right there at the back end, and then wrap it up. Not quite to the dumbbells, but pretty close. And we're going to cut that off right there. And then we're going to wrap that back to the back again. Now, if you want to put chenille in, this is where we put the chenille in. We wrap it in. Maybe we'll put a little bit of chenille in. Well, it's not a very big hook here, so let's just do a couple wraps of chenille. Pull the tips off. We got some material to work with. Pretty much just right behind where we tied the marabou in. I'm gonna wrap that to the back, like so, all on the bottom of the fly, or the top of the hook, which will be the bottom. So when it hits the bottom, it's not going to be dragging. It'll protect the eyes from getting scratched up. And then we're going to wrap the chenille, probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 turns up to build the body, and then we're going to cut that off right there, like so. Right, and then we're going to invert the fly, so now it's hook point up, and we can tie in a little piece of this UV polar chenille in brown olive, and we're going to use about this much, and we're just going to tie it right on top of the hook, right at the end, and we're going to put it like that, back to the chenille, and go back to the dumbbell, leave it there, and we're only going to wrap it, I think, let's count them, that's 1, 2, pull the fibers back, 3, let's go 4 wraps. 4 wraps, wrap that down, secure that, and then cut that piece out. 4 wraps of that, just to give it a little bit of flash, but also we're building the bulk towards the head. And then we're going to put fins on. So I found 2 grizzly marabou Sculpin olive feathers. I found 2 that yeah, they're really big, but they match. The feathers match for fins. I'm not sure if it matters or not, but to me it matters. So we're trying to make this fly look as realistic as possible. So you're going to basically strip all the material off the feather and just use the top fin, like the top of it, to make a little fins on the side. So that's that one. Do the same thing on the other one. You can put a little bit of fluff in there. I don't want a whole lot of fluff. A little bit. And then the feather curves, so we're going to tie, instead of tying it this way, we want the feather to curve out. So we're going to tie it so the curve of the feather is facing outward. And you only want the fins to be probably about half the length of the hook shank-ish. Maybe a bit more. 3/4 the length of the hook shank. Just to accent that is a sculpin. I'm going to put that on that side. Drop that one in. And then tie it right behind the dumbbell. And the inner side and the inner side, same thing. On the outside of the dumbbell. Almost underneath the dumbbell, if you want to say, you even can do that. And then try that there. And then we're going to cut off the excess. Like that. And now we have two little sculpin fins. Got one on that side and one on that side. Look, there's the bottom view. To flared out, right? That's that. And then we're going to take this olive variant black barred rabbit, and we're going to cut off about a shank and a half of rabbit. Not a huge piece, but a shank and a half. We're going to cut that off. And what I like to do on my flies is a tail. I like to taper the tail. So on the hide on it, I like to cut it so it's pointed, so it kicks more in the water, like a V shape, like this. See, it's got a V in it. That's my thing. I like it. You can do longer if you want to make it thing, but this is a sculpin. We want it to be a bulky fly. A sculpin, they're kind of robust, so I use it longer. Minnow patterns, I'll cut it longer, but this pattern, I tie it this. And then we're going to tie it on top of the dumbbells. And where they cut it, make sure it's, yeah, about a hook length and a half, I guess. And I'm going to leave a little bit extra in the front, like so. I'm going to leave that in the front and the hook, so I can tie it in front and basically figure eight on top of the rabbit fur, which will also re-secure my dumbbells, and then it'll basically, the wool will flow into it. So I'm going to separate the rabbit like so, and then tie it right there on top, and then comb it back, and then put it back, and then figure eight around the eye, and then cut off this extra hide right here at the tip with the nose, like so. And then figure eight around this. This will do the two things. It'll hold the rabbit securely and also hold the eyes in place. So you don't have to worry about your eyes ever coming loose. Now you can use this fly for steelhead. I've used it before for steelhead, but it's nice to swing tubes. Okay, next material is the sculpin wool and sculpin olive. Now it's like a hot mess. If you've ever used it yourself before, it's kind of a hot mess. So basically cut off a section. It's not like crazy huge, but I don't know, 2 inches maybe. Maybe 3. About this much. And it's really bulky, you can't put it all on there. So we're going to separate it like this. I'm going to separate a piece like this, and then we're going to separate a piece like this. So now we have 3 pieces of this, okay? So we're going to put this small piece, smaller of the pieces, whatever one's smaller, because they don't revert that. We want this one smaller. We're going to put the smaller one on the bottom of the fly. They're going to invert the fly, go right behind the eyes, and we're going to make it short, like this short. And we're going to wrap it there and pull it back. And then we're going to make a loop out of it and loop it again. in front of the eyes. Right? So when we cut it later, it'll look like a sculpin, and then also protect the eyes from rocks. But you'll get a bit of noise, but it'll add some protection. Then we're gonna go in the front, and we're gonna take the other piece, and we're gonna put it on one side of the hook shank. So look at this on the back side. So that's the back side of the shank, and then we're gonna pull it there, and we're gonna tighten it, and then we're gonna fold it back over itself, and tie it right in front of it again. Put that there. And then we're gonna take the other piece and tie it on the other side of the fly, like so. Same thing, we're going to fold it back over itself and push it in there. The front. I'm going to get one of my clips here, clip this, like so. Right? And then we're going to whip finish. Okay. Then we're going to take the fly out of the vise, and we have this rabbit to deal with, right? So we got to poke this rabbit through this hide. So I lay it down, the hide. Let's see, do this. Lay the hide down till it goes past the hook barb. Do it on this side so you can see it. Lay the hook down so it goes past the hook barb. There's a hook there. There's a rabbit strip. Now take it right behind it, bring it back a little bit, and poke it through the hook. If it doesn't go, we'll have to let some more slack out and try it again. And then it pokes through. So now we have the rabbit through the hook shank, like so. So now it's carp style, and it's kind of weedless. Now we get this hot mess up here to deal with. So take my fancy dancy curved scissors, which really helps in the sculpting, and we just basically, I basically just take the fly, put my thumb on the bottom of it, and just start trimming basically around the outside of my thumb. So it'll build basically the head before I even start. Make sure you don't cut your feathers off. That's close. Right? And then that loop we made at the bottom, cut the loop out. And then there's the loop's cut out, and then you basically almost want it flat. There's the bottom of the fly, so I'm going to cut it again flat, and then trim it. And then we got this front to top to deal with. Same thing, push it all back, come to the hook thing, and basically just put your thumb on both eyeballs or dumbbells, squeeze together, and follow your thumb around. Make sure your feathers and stuff are all pinched at the bottom. Follow your thumb around. There is my sculpin carp style. Steelhead meet carp. Sculpin versus sculpin. That concludes our steelhead meet carp part 3. If you don't tie the 2 flies, give it a try. You'll be pleasantly surprised that once you get the hang of it and you get the adapter. They're awesome. If you don't have any sculpin patterns in your carp box, definitely try some out. Hit me up for some. I'll send you some. If you love this video, subscribe to my channel. Tell your friends. We're hoping to hit the water next week for some live action steelhead, and if we're lucky, some carp. Stay tuned. There's more on the way, and we're out.